We'll do a review in Lekuta Siches in Chelek Yud Ches. This is the fifth Sicha for the Parshas Naso. The Rebbe explains it's a Rashi Sicha, but the Rebbe explains the Rashi by the second Nasi, as the older Nisim brought the Korbanos, starting with Nachshon ben Aminodov on the first day on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and then for the next 12 days, the Nisim, each one brought their Korbanos, and they were basically identical Korbanos. And Rashi brings down from Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan explaining some Remozim in the various different meanings, the numbers and the different meanings of the various different things that they brought and how and what they hint to. And the Rebbe is going to explain. He's already spoken about this Rashi. It's already a Sikha that's been printed before, but the Rebbe is going to continue to explore and explain a lot of the details of the Rashi, how it really fits in, as the Rebbe is going to make it into two categories of the various different hints, as we will see in the Sikha. Let's look inside. But first, the Rebbe brings down the pasuk Nosei Hey Aleph in their parsha from Korbanos Hanesim, in the portion of the offerings of the leaders that brought to the inauguration of the Beis Hamikdash. So when it comes to the second Nasi, beim zweiten Nasi, bringt Rashi Arab, Rashi brings down Mi Yisoider Shel Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan. This is based foundation of Rabbi Moshe the Darshan. And he brings down as the protim in the Korbanos Hanesim, that the details in the sacrifices of the leaders, Zayin and Meramis, Farshidene Inyonim, they hint for various different matters. And the Rebbe quotes, first he brings down Karas Kesef, the numerical value, the gematria of the word Karas Kesef, these two words, is Begematria Tov Kuf Lamed, 930. What does 930 Karas Kesef correspond to? That is Keneged Shenoisav Shel Odom Harishan. That corresponds to the years what Odom Harishan lived. Odom Harishan lived for 930 years, and the Karas Kesef is the numerical value, is 930, hints to the life of Odom. Then further, the pasuk says Karas Kesef Achad. Then it says Mizrok Echad Kesef. Now Mizrok Echad Kesef, over here Rashi brings down that the Mizrok Echad Kesef is Al Shem Noach. Over there, in the pasuk, I'm just looking for the Rashi over here. The Moshe Hadarshan. So Rashi says, Minyan Ois Yosef is over there the Rashi brings down, it doesn't bring down here the Shloshim Mishkola, but it brings down the Mizrok Echot Kesef is Begematria Tov Kuf Chof. Mizrok Echot Kesef, the whole Rashi of there explaining how we're counting all the Gematria, the numerical value of the word Mizrok plus the numerical value of the word Echot plus the numerical value of Kesef. Together, it's the gematria, it comes out to 520. Rashi explains that 520 refers about to Noach. Noach's 500 years was when he started giving birth to Shem Chom V'Yofes. It says Vahi Noach, that Noach was 500 years old. So that's 500. What's 520? The 20 years is the years for the Gezeda that the Mabel was given from before 20 years prior to the birth of the first child. Rashi explains over there because they didn't want him to be liable at the time that the Mabel came, because over there 20 was the adult, the time that you become responsible, Baranshim. So he wanted that the oldest of Noach's children should be before 20. But anyways, it turns out that the Mizrok Echad Kesef is Al Shem Noach. That is related to Noach, the 500 years of Noach. plus the 20 years that preceded Noach that the Gezerah was made, and that's why he gave birth to the age at 500, so that the oldest of his children should not yet be 20 years old. And also Rashi explains with it, that's why the word echod comes in between Mizrak and Kesef, so that we should know instead of Karas, Kesef, Achas, over there the Achas comes after the Kaira. Here, the word echod comes in between Mizrak and Kesef to tell you that we also have to count the echod as part of the numerical value over here. So in the 530, I'm just bringing this down just to complete the Rashi over there. This is what Rashi says. In any event, the generally the Mizrak Echad goes on Noach. And then further, the pasuk says Kaf Achas, that goes Keneged HaTorah. That corresponds to the Torah. And Rashi explains over there also, how does this correspond to the Torah? Because it was given, the Rebbe will bring it down a little later, Keneged HaTorah, Shenitna miyodah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kaf like a hand. So it's like the spoon, one spoon, meaning the hand of HaKadosh, one hand. The Eibishter gave the Torah. And then further, there were three types of korbanos: par echod, ayil echod, keves echod. And Rashi explains that these are connected to Aladovis. Those correspond to the forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Over there it says by each one, as Rashi points out, by each one it says by Avram, it says Vayikach ben Bokor, that's the par. And then you have the Ayil is Yitzchak. Ayil took him instead of Yitzchak, and the Keves is connected Yaakov. By him it says Aksov Mifrid Yaakov. So that's the hint for Avraham of Yaakov. So far we have here all of the original, the forefathers. We start with Adam, we go to Shem, we talk about the Ovis, and eventually we say Seir Izim. What is the Seir Izim? So we have the Par Echad, Eilechad, Keves, then we have Seir Izim, Echad, and that is L'chaper al Mechilas Yosef. That is to atone for the sale of Yosef, because over there too they told that they took us Seir Izim and they shechted it to trick their father. So that's why that is hinted by the Seir Izim, Vayishchatu Seir Izim, as Rashi brings down. And then Ulzevach Hashlomi Bokar Shnayim. So then we go down to Keneged Moshe Aaron. That's the Bokar Shnayim. Rashi says that corresponds to Moshe and Aaron. And that's Shlomim because Shinosnu Sholom Ben Yisrael Avim Shabashamayim. They're Shlomim, they brought the Binay of peace, that's Moshe and Aaron. And weiter, and then Elim, Atudim, and Kvosim, Zainen Keneged Kahanim V'Leviyim V'Yisraelim. So there it says further the Elim Chamisha, Atudim Chamisha, Vosim Nishona Chamisha. So Rashi Shloisha Minim Keneged Kahanim V'Leviyim V'Yisraelim. Cool. And then Rashi also says, and the Rebbe will talk a little bit later on, the Hemshech of the Rashi, that it's also Torah Nevi'im Uksuvim, that it's not really something different, because otherwise it would be 6 Kohanim Levim Yisraelim, and then Torah Nevi'im Uksuvim. So that's 3, as the Rebbe will discuss later on in this year. Okay, so these are the various different. This is all about the various, as the generation went down from Adam, Noach, and Ovis, and Yosef, and Moshe and Aaron. Then, so why does Rashi B'chlal bring Remozim over here? So what's Rashi's problem? So the Rebbe explained it elsewhere in the Sikha that the question really becomes when the pasuk basically repeats the same thing for exact the same korbanos by each one of the Nisim. And the Torah, when we come to the second Nasi, over there the question arises, and why repeat it again? Just say he did like the first one, and so on. So that's why Rashi explains it at the second Nasi. And Rashi gives a hint to say that each one had its own meaning. And all of these different meanings are associated specifically with that Shevet. It was special kavanas and special intentions. So therefore, even though it manifests itself in bringing the exact same thing, but each one had its own different thing. And therefore, it's a separate carbon for each one. And we don't just say they did it like the other ones. Parvos brengt Rashi bichlal the remozim in their karbonis hanesim. Why does Rashi at all bring the hint in the sacrifices of the leaders? An inyan for Udrush, this seems to be an idea of a hint. It's expounding it based on Pirush al Derech HaPshat. But Rashi's normal commentary is based on the simple meaning of the pasuk. Why does Rashi bring it down? And further, even if Rashi brings it down, why bring it down on the second one? Is oibye or oibye, and if it does bring down, pavos, hat das Arab gebracht beim zweiten Nasi. Why did Rashi bring this down by the second Nasi, und nicht gleich beim ersten Nasi, and not right immediately by the first Nasi? Hat men Shramol mevarg ben Baruch, we already explained this in Chelek Ches and Lekutei Sichos. So the Rebbe explained over there at length. Ados is the far that is because was by Rashi is schwer. What bothers Rashi, it's difficult to Rashi. Was der posik chazet iber by jeden nosi bazunder? Why is the posik repeating again and again by each leader separately? 12 times. The Torah repeats the alle protar karbonis. All of the specific of the sacrifices. Since they all brought the same sacrifices, it would have been sufficient when starting with the second Nasi. So the Pasuk sagen bei jeden von die weiter dicke Nisim. So the Pasuk should say by the all following Nisim, starting with the second one, should say Azerot gebracht, the selbe prote karbonis, that he brought the same specific sacrifices with the erster Nasi, as the first Nasi. Therefore, nemt Rashi Aroi, this told from this Rashi takes out as beim bringen sein Korban, that when each of the Nisim, when they brought the Korban, hat jeder Nasi gehad seine besondere Kavonis uremozim. Each Nasi had his distinct intention and hints, seinen Behesem zum Inyan Betoichem von seinen Shevet, which fit to the concept and to the idea and the content of his tribe. Each tribe had, these are the same items, but they mean different things. Obemela is der korban from jeden Nasi, so therefore the korban of each Nasi, the kavonas korban, that intent behind the korban, anders from the korbanos from the other Nisim. It's different than the sacrifices of the other leaders. Therefore, chazet ibed the posik the prota korbanos for jeden Nasi bazunder. And that's why that's why the pasuk repeats the details of the korbanos of every Nasi separately, because it's a separate idea behind each of the korbanos. So in that case, how come Rashi doesn't tell us the different ideas behind each of the korbanos? Und those was Rashi bringt darauf, lois ein remes. And why does Rashi bring down just one hint for jeden sug korban? For every category of korban, Rashi brings one hint, and that's it. Und those darf entering the Mir Chazon, and this needs to answer the repeating. But Allah Shvat 12 mal. Why are all tribes 12 times? We only know one kavan over here in this pasuk by the second, by Yisachar, the son of Ben Tzur. Nitvi in Medrash, and Rashi doesn't do. In the Medrash Rabbah, we find when we gefinnen by jeden Nosi ananda remes for themselves Sukkot. We find every prince of the Nisim, they have a different hint, and even though it's the same category of the korban, there's another hint for it, because that's why it's repeated. But Rashi doesn't repeat anything, doesn't tell us any other meaning behind these korbanos. It says the far And that is was jeder Remes was Rashi bring, because every hint that Rashi brings is an Inyan Kloli. It's a general idea. Was tells of Kama Protim. That idea splits, is divided up to many details. Jeder Nasi had gehat in dem Remes Kloli an andere Kavana Protis, and each Nasi had in this general that Rashi brings down one idea. And in this general hint had a specific additional, a separate one from the other one in his specific intent, was his two goodbyes to sein Shevet, that is fit to his tribe. This the Rebbe explained this at length in Lekutei Sichos over there, and the special kavanas for each one. So far that has been explained. But now the Rebbe is going to try to understand the specific hints over here of the kavanas base. Therefore, we need to, however, understand. Says Adover Hamuvon. This is something which is understood as the Remosim from the Alle Prote HaKorban from Yed Nosi, that the hints of the all of the details of the korban, each nasi, each of these details, the hints, it's not just a put together from various different kinds. This is hints this hints that. In other words, there's no association between all of these hints. This is just an arbitrary collection of hints for different things. It's nisht. It's not just plain a put together from various different ideas. Nor zeizain and protim for ein nekuda klolis. These are details from one general theme. There's a general point over here, which is these ideas. What is the general theme over there? In Medrash, as we actually find in the Medrash. As Eider Heptom Mefaret Zain the Remozim Protim with the Karbonos for Yed Nasi, that before the Medrash begins to specify the hint, the specific hints from the sacrifices that every leader brought, is there Magdim the Nekuda Klolis in the Remozim of the Nasi. So then, first the Medrash introduces the general point, the general theme. What is this Nasi doing? And then the rest of the under the Mosim from the Nasi and the hints from this Nasi, and then going to explain each of the details of that general theme. As for example, Nachshin al Seder HaMelucha. Nachshin is on the order of Melucha, the kingdom. Melech Yehuda, Nachshin ben Aminodov. And the Sanhil was Yisachar, is Al Shem HaTorah. He was they have been elitim, the tribe of Yisachar were learning Torah, so therefore it's Al Shem HaTorah and Al Zevaiter and so on. So each tribe has the general theme, and from that theme we have a bunch of pratim. But in Rashi, which is the general theme over here? Over in the Remozim was Rashi brings, but in the hints that Rashi brings, Zetzich nit lechoire, so it doesn't seem, you don't see on this, it seems like you can't see as his own Zain Protim for ein Klal, that these are details of one general rule. There's no theme here. It's just put together different remozim. So the Rebbe says in Medrash, the Medrash is Do'adeya. There is an opinion in the Medrash as the alle Sachen was the Nisim have makriv given, that all of these items that the Nisim offered seinen Keneged Hadoiris Shahoyim Odom Arishin Va'ad HaMishkon Ukeneged HaMitzvah Shenit Stabu, that they correspond to the generations that were starting from the first man from Odom Arishin up till the time of the Mishkan, and also to correspond to the mitzvahs that they were commanded. And then as it is translated over there, as Ka'ares Kesef is Merames of Odom Horishin. Koros Kesef is hinted for Odom Horishin. It's and Mizrach of Nechon B'chulu. So basically, that these are the two. This is the order. That's the theme. The theme is from Odom till the Mishkan, and that's why Koros Kesef and Mizrach Odom Horishin and Noach. So what man lechayre gekent sagen, so we could have said, as in dem besteht euch the nekuda klolis, that this is also, and this consists, the general point, the general theme, in the Remosim was Rashi bring do, and the hints that Rashi, the Rav Rashi bring. Wie is der noch mefared die deures, as he later on specifically details the generations. Odom Horishain v'tel Deisov. Odom Horishain and his children, which is Shem, Chom, and Yofis, and Noach v'tel Deisov, which is the Shivim Umas, and the Ovis, Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, Yosef, Moshe, and Aaron. We talk about Torah, Seres Adibres, Tarayag Mitzvahs, Torah, Nevi'im, Uksum. So all these things are actually in the Pesukim that we read, that Rashi explains. So we have Odom Harishain, and then he gave birth as to the age that he gave birth. That includes Toldoisov and Noach. And then when he gave birth, and then we have the Shivim Shekel, that I didn't mention it before, but those were the 70 Shivim Shekel, connected Umas. Then you have the Ovis, Yaakov, and then you have Yosef, Moshe, and Aaron, and the Mitzvah Nitztav, Torah, Mitzvahs, these are all the details that Rashi brought down. So it seems that there is a general theme based on what the Medrash said over there, that that this is the corresponding. Es is aber noch als kosher. However, it still remains difficult because number one, the kasha fun Maharal, the question of the Maharal, which is in the Gur Aryeh, he asks, "Vos parashayches hoben shnois Odom Harishon v'Noach." So, what is the connection of the years of Odom Harishon and Noach to unser inyan, to our subject, Chanukas HaMizbeach v'HaMishkan, when we're talking about the dedication of the Mizbeach and the Mishkan? Mele, you want to talk about Mitzvah Yaakov, the Ovis, and you want to talk about Torah. All this is connected to the Mizbeach, but what's the connection to Odom Harishon and Noach? And Beis, Lefizeh wollten die Korbanis mit Zeder Mozim gedarft sein Seder Hatoris. If this is what it's hinting to, it should have been the Korbanis, and their hint should have followed the order of the generations. Pavos is men mafsik zwischen the Korbanis keneged Noach und Avram, that we interrupt between the Korbanis, which is keneged Noach and Avram. As we said before, the hint for Noach is Mizrach Echot Kesef. That's the Tov Kuf Chof, which is the hint for Avroha of Noach. Rashi says the 520, but then the pasuk says Kaf Achas Asora Zohov. The Shivim shekel is Shivim Umas, but the Kaf Achas Asora Zohov, why is that interrupt? Zwischen the Kabbalah Keneged Noach and Avram mit Kaf Achas Keneged HaTorah Chulu. Was Shishayich zum Zman for Moshe Aaron. That really belongs to the time of Moshe and Aaron, the Kaf Achas Zohov Leikatoris. Okay, so we'll see how the Rebbe explains this. And Gimel, Ois Gimel. So the Rebbe is going to explain specifically the Kaf Achas Asora Zohov Meleya Keteris. Euch darf man verstehen, Aleph. If kaf achas asora zohov, there was one spoon which was weight of 10 gold. Is Rashi mefarish kaf achas is keneged atoiro shenitnu miyodesh lakodesh baruch Hu. One kaf corresponds to the Torah that has been given from Hashem's hand. What is the asora zohov? 10 gold. Keneged asora sadibris. That corresponds to the 10 dibris. Then, oder noch, and then again. So we already talked about the Torah. We talked about the Aseres Hadibros. And then later on, when the Pasuk says, Arechod, Sidizim Echod, Bokor Shnaim, Elim Chamisha, Atudim Chamisha, so Rashi says Shloisha Minim, Ukaneged, Torah Nevi Muksuvim over there. So again, when we talk about the different types of karbonis, the elim, atudim, and the kavasim, zoktaru keneged Torah nevi muksuvim. And then also, so we already have the kafach asasoro is hinted keneged at Torah, and the asoro is aseres adibris. And over there again, when it talks to elim, atudim, kavasim, Rashi brings down ukeneged Torah nevi muksuvim. Already again, Torah Nevi Muksuvim, the Tanakh, and Sholosh Chamishiyos. The Pasuk says over there, Elim Bokor, Elim Chamisha, Tudim Chamisha, Kvosim Neshona Chamisha. 5 times Oktrashi Chamisha, 3 times Chamisha, is Keneged Chamisha Chumshin. This corresponds to the 5 Chumshin that we have. We have the 5 Chumoshim of the Torah, that's 1/5. Then you have a Chomesh HaDibris Aksub Maluach Echad. You have the 5 Dibris on one tablet. The Chomesh does it of the 10 Seres HaDibris is 5 and 5 Echulu. Pavos Daven Hoben 2 Korbanos Remozim of Torah. Why do we need 2 Korbanos Remozim Torah side the Kaf Achas, which is connected to Torah, and also Unazoich 2 of the Seres HaDibris. We also have 2 for the Seres HaDibris. Because the 2 Chamishiyos are the 2 times 10 on the tablets. Then when you look at that Rashi specific, when Rashi explains the Pasuk of Gimel, Chamisha, Elim Chamisha, Tudim Chamisha, Kvosim Neshona Chamisha. So what are the 3 korbanos? Rashi starts off, and then Pirush, later on he says that it's Torah Nevi Muksuvim. But from Noshon Rashi is ein Pirush of Elim Atudim Kvosim. So he starts off by saying, Keneged Kohanim Ulevim V'Yisraelim. So that's the first 3 types of korbanos, Elim Atudim Kvosim, different types of animals. And then Rashi says, Ukeneged Torah Nevi Muksuvim. And corresponding also Torah Nevi Muksuvim. Doesn't say Dover Achar, not Dover Achar Keneged Torah, not that there's a different interpretation. Or the V'yeshemrim, or there's some say. Rashi just continues to say corresponding to Kohanim Leviim and corresponding to Torah Nevi Muksuvim. Is Muchach, so from this it's evident, Adozan nit kein 2 Perushim in dem Remes von Gimel Minim. These are not 2 separate interpretation what the 3 kinds mean. Nordos is ein Pirush. This is really one commentary. The Remes from Gimel Minim, this hint for 3 kinds, is koilel. It includes the Kohanim, Ulevim, Yisraelim. It includes them. Zusammen together with Torah Nevi Muksuvim. 3 Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim, and Torah Nevi Muksuvim. Is Tamua, if this is the 3, we can Gimel Minim sein connected 6 Sachen. So how could 3 types, the 3 types of the animals, the Elim, Atudim, and Kvosim, how could the 3 animals correspond to 6 different things? Zayin connected 6 Sachen, how could it be 6 things? These are not different interpretations. That means all 6 of them. So how could 3 things correspond to 6 things? And then further in this Rashi, when Rashi brings down, he says, 3 chamishiyos. He brings down Elim Atudim Kvosim, the 3 kinds, Kainim Levim Yisraelim, Ukanega Torah Nevim Uksumim. And then Rashi says, as far as the Meremes from the Gimel Minim, Elim Atudim Kvosim, that it means Kohanim Levim and Yisraelim and Torah Nevim Uksumim, is a Mevair den Tam was man hat gebracht Chamisha. After why 5? Why 5 Atudim? Why Kvosim? Why is Dafke 5 Elim, 5 Atudim, 5 Kvosim? Chamisha Dafke Yedem Min. As Rashi says, Sholosh Chamishis, there's 3 times 5. Keneged Chamisha Chumoshim, corresponding to the 5 Chumoshim. And also, B'chomesh HaDibros, Aksuvim Haluach Echod, B'chomesh Aksuvim Halasheni. And to correspond to the 5 sayings which were written on one tablet, and the 5 that were in the other tablet. Darf man verstehen. So we need to understand. The remes von Sholosh Chamishis, what the 3 times 5, hat nicht kein Scheiches zu alle frierdike Gimel Minim. It does not apply to all the previous mentioned 3 kinds of the Elim Atudim Ukvosim. Lois einer von sei. Torah, only one of these 3 kinds, the Torah, we have, when you say over there, the one of the kinds is Torah, the second is Nevi'im, and the third is Ksuvim. That's the Gimel Minim. Only one of them, which is the Torah part, Torah is to tell to Chamisha. That's divided into 5, Chamisha Chumshim. There's no 5 in Nevi'im and the Ksuvim. This haste, which means amit bringen the karbonis from the Gimel Minim in a mispar from Chomesh. When you brought the karbonis in the 3 kinds in a number of 5, is memeramis auf noch an ander nayin inyan was hot a shayches mishbar Chomesh. So we're coming with something new which is connected to Chomesh. It's not the same 3, the Chomesh of the 3. It's a new connection to Chomesh. Is not moving, not understood. Pavos hat man gedarf haben a besonderen Remes auf dem Prat von Chomesh Chumshin Chulu. So why did we need, therefore, another Chamisha Chumshin for the Chomesh Chumshin in Sugab some Remes of Klolus HaTorah for the Gimel Minim? So already, why do we need to say it's 5 Chumashim? Well, why do we need to add to the Torah that it's 5 Chumashim? In addition to that, there's 3 minim. So we don't know the other Torah is giving you a hint of the 5 Chumashim, but the other ones, Nevi'im Uksuvim, don't have 5 in them. And here, by the Torah, we have the Torah, and it's 5 Chumoshim. Why do we need that extra remez that the 5 Chumoshim in the hint of Torah? Base, number 2, from the Seder Rashi's Mefarish, the Sholosh Chamishis, the order as Rashi explains the 3 5s, 3 Chamish Chumoshim. First he says the 5 Chumoshim, and the Noch Chomesh HaDibros, and then he says the 5 on the Luchas, each one. Is mashma, it seems, it appears, Amit Chomesh HaDibros Chulu meinter nit the Aseres HaDibros. It doesn't mean the 10 sayings, wie sie seinen ausgekritzt in the Luchas Avonim, as they are engraved in the stone tablet. That's not what Rashi means when it says 5, the 5 Ksuvim Aluach Echod B'chamisha Ksuvim Al Sheni, that it means those were engraved, the tablets that were engraved. Why? Warum die Luchas seien gegeben geworden? Früher wie die Chamisha Chumoshim. The Luchas were given before the 5 Chumoshim. But Rashi gedacht rechnen die 2 Chamishiyos. So Rashi should have counted the 2 5s from the Aseres HaDibros for the Chamisha Chumoshim. He should have counted them before the Chamisha Chumashim because they came in time further first. First was the Luchas, and then we get the 5 Chumashim. So, therefore, what does Rashi mean when he says the 5 and Luach Echad and the 5 and Luach Sheni? It doesn't mean the engraved Luchas. He means the way they're written in the Torah. Nor the Aseres HaDibros v'zei zayin fashribun in the Chumash. But it means the 10 Dibros as they have been written down in the Chumash. Al Satel from the Chamish Chumashim Teresh B'Ksav as part of the 5 Chumashim Teresh B'Ksav. It comes after that. But Rashi says 5 on the tablets, so it seems like we're talking here about the tablets, not about the Torah. The Torah, they're not on 5 on one tablet, 5 on the other tablet. This concept that 5 on tablet and 5 on the other tablet also applies, and it extends to the Torah as well. So the Rebbe says, this does not contradict from them. This that I'm just saying now, that we're talking about the way they're written in the Torah. That's why it follows the Chamisha Chumoshim, and then we're talking about the Aseres HaDibros, the 5 and 5. So that's not contradicting in the words of Rashi. Rashi zog, Chomesh HaDibros HaKsuvim Aluach Echad, 5 that are written on one tablet, Chomesh HaKsuvim Al Hasheni, and 5 that are written on the second one. While those was the Aseres HaDibros and eingeteilt in 2 Luches. The fact that the 10 sayings have been split up into the 2 tablets is das nit nor agashmi is the inyan. That's not just a physical matter. Fashribun of 2 besondere Luches, that it was written down on 2 separate tablets. Nor adrab, it's just the opposite. Das Nemtzach, this is a result. This comes from Unzeir Chaluke in Teuchen, because they're divided in contents. These are 2 different contents, the 2 parts of that 10 dibros, 5 and 5. There's the 5 dibros, seinen beikrom ubi yisoidam. The 5 first sayings are mainly, and their basis is mitzvahs asay. They're positive mitzvahs. Vorum loi, the fact that you do find the loisase right in the beginning, when we say not to have, so that seems that's a lav. That's right in the beginning too, and also the lav not to swear to take Hashem's name in vain. They are not really independent. Those are branches from the positive mitzvah Noicha Hashem Elikecha. So it's basically the positive mitzvah of I'm God, your God. Und the zweite 5 dibros, and the second part of the 5 sayings, seinen alle mitzvahs leisas, are all prohibitions. There's another way of splitting up the 2 in idea. Oder, the other way is the erste seinen beiker ben odom lamokim. The first ones are mainly between a person and Hashem. Well, what about honoring your father and mother? That's on the first 5. And even the mitzvah of honoring your father and your mother is also tied between a person and Hashem, even though it seems it's interpersonal, it's with your parents, because we know that the shloisha shutafim, there is 3 partners. Hashem is also a partner. And this is connected al pi Maimer Azal, Hishva HaKosuv Kibud Aveim L'Kved Amokim, that the Torah equated honoring one's father and mother to the honoring Hashem. So basically, honoring your father is honoring Hashem, and that's why it's part of the 5 tablets, which are Bein Odom Lamokim, between a person and Hashem. Those are the 5 tablets. Und the zweite, the other 5 tablets, Bein Odom Lachavera, are between man and his friend, interpersonal, the other one. So there's 2 ways of splitting it, but in either way, they're split in idea, not split because there are 2 tablets. The contrary, the tablets are split because they're 2 separate, either because these are positive and those are negatives. And the Rebbe shows even the 2 positive that we have in the first 5 are also branches of the positive. and or because they are the first are between Hashem and the people, and the other ones are between man and his friend. So we need to understand. Since we already have a hint, we have not only about the Torah generally, in the Ginumini, because the three kinds, we have the three types of korbanos. One of them is Torah. But we also have a remes 5 for the Chibuch Chumashim. So, Arvos hat man gedarf haben noch a remes bazunder. So why do we have a separate hint separately if the Aseres Hadibros versteht in the Chamish Chumashim on the 10 sayings that are in the Chamish Chumashim? So we already have about the Chamish Chumashim over there. So you have about the Torah. That's one of the kinds, the three kinds, Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim. So one of them is Torah. Within Torah, we already have a Chamish Chumashim. And then within Torah, we just concluded this is not talking about the tablets, because otherwise the tablets would have been written first. It's talking about the 10 commandments in the Torah. Why do we need to spell that out and bring a special hint for that? Hey, the Rebbe says that das Verstehen behagdim akashia klolis in the minyan from Karbonos Anisim. So we'll understand this by introducing a general question about these Karbonos of the Nisim. These Karbonos that the princes brought. The Karbonos Anisim Zane given, these sacrifices of the princes were nit anedova far mishkan bechlal v'dagolos chulum. They weren't a gift in general for the Mishkan, such as the carriages which they carried later on, the beams for the Mishkan. So that was for the Mishkan, but that was nor lachanukas hamizbeach. That was especially for the inauguration of the Mizbeach. Was der chinuch hamizbeach hat sich aufgetan davke durch die Sachen, was mit makrig werden auf Mizbeach. That was accomplished specifically through the items that you brought on the Mizbeach. The inauguration was brought through the things that were on the Mizbeach, such as the soilas, blulu, bashem, and lemincha. You had these fine flour mixed in oil that went as a mincha, as a meal offering, as a mincha. Ketoides that you brought the incense, unoilo chatos ushlamim, and the oilo chatos ushlamim that was brought up. If you say it's not move on, so based on this, not understood was the pasuk hipton samalam ershton. So we don't understand why does the pasuk begin with nit midam suga now? Why doesn't the Torah begin with the category was vet nikrav of mizbeach, that which is brought on the mizbeach as an offering, which was the Chanukah samizbeach? The Torah starts nor mit korbonoi charas kesef achaz goimer, about the silver plate, or mizrak echod goimer, or this thrower that was a server. And the Torah doesn't just say they brought it, it tells you the details. In the mishkal, how much it weighed, the shavi for the kelim, the value of this kelim. Then when it comes to the spoon, it also says, as if to say that these vessels were the main and the head, the top of Chanukas Mizbeach. Chanukas Mizbeach was through the Karbonos, things on the Mizbeach. These were, looks like secondary. So why does the Torah start with that, and why does the Torah give that such importance? Now the Rebbe is going to explain that the order and the expression, the hints from all these various different items that they brought, really there's two categories. One represents the connection through Karbonis that took place before the building of the Mishkan, in which there was lacking Vateitze Eish, that is fire from Hashem. So while there were Karbonis, but there was no Eish, that's represented by doimim. That's represented by Noach and Odom before Matan Torah. And on the other hand, we have Karbonis Chayis, we have living animals. That represents the Zman after Matan Torah, in which there's a Chayis, an open connection. Bob, the Birba the explanation, all this, says Vestaber Bepashtus. It makes sense simply as the Remozim with the Karbonis, Lechanukas HaMizbeach Shebe Mishkan, that these hints of these Karbonis that they did to inaugurate the Mizbeach of the Mishkan that the Nesim brought, seien in them Inyan HaMizbeach. So they are coming to demonstrate the idea of the Mizbeach, what the Mizbeach accomplished. That this is the Chanukahs, the Mizbeach. What is the Mizbeach? What did the Mizbeach now accomplish when it was inaugurated? When they built it. Now, when they're starting the Avodas HaMizbeach. The Hainu, in zij werd gebracht der Oiftu von the Mizbeach. In these gifts that they brought, the Korbanos, is expressed the novelty, what the Mizbeach does, und the Korbanos, was men bringt of him. The novelty of the Mizbeach and the Korbanos that you bring on the Mizbeach. Das heißt, the Nesivim v'vayakrivas Korbanom lachanukas HaMizbeach, these princes, when they brought the Korban to inaugurate the Mizbeach, haben sie das ausgestellt in a Seder Miyuchad. They set it up in a special order, a Misper Miyuchad, a special number, v'chulu, in welches is merumes der Chiddush, in which is hinted the novelty, was hat sich aufgetan der mit, was is da der Mizbeach, that was accomplished with the fact that there is a Mizbeach legabe dem frir de kamatzev, relative to the situation that was there before. So this brings out the specialty of this Mizbeach. So what is the specialty of the Mizbeach relative to what was before? That in the fact that it was a Teitzeish, that Ilu was in this Chadish geworden, in the Korbanos, what elevation that has been accomplished, the novelty of these Korbanos that are brought on the Mizbeach, was man bringt of Mizbeach shebe Mishkan, that you bring on the Mizbeach and the Mishkan, legabei the Korbanos was not makrik when farmaten Torah, is relative to the Korbanos that you brought before Matan Torah, is they're oiftu for Mishkan Bechlal. Generally, what is the Mishkan? And we'll see in the Mizbeach. The Mishkan, in generally, what does it accomplish? Is kimufurish b'kra, is as the pasuk specifically, explicitly says, "V'asuli migdav shachanti b'soicham." Make for me a sanctuary so I can rest amongst you. As Eden machun oifan ordbus is do hashros hashchina begolu. That the Yidden make up a place in which the divine rests openly. That's the Mikdash. These, as the Mishkan Gufa is the Mishkan Gufa is a Mikdash. The Mishkan itself becomes a sanctuary, a holy place, a Hilikazach, a matter of holiness. That's the Mishkan, period. And the Mizbeach, that's also the novelty, the Mizbeach that is in the Mishkan, as jeder Yid hodi yicholos, that every Yid has the ability to nemen achulin dike behema v'chulu, to take a weekly animal, etc., which is a weekly item, a bocha dike zach, a weekly item, umachun derfun a korban laHashem, and make it, turn it into a offering to Hashem, in an oifun, in such a way, as mezed bein boser, that you see, we, with the eyes of flesh, that it becomes something holy. Durch dem was makriv the behema of Mizbeach, by offering the behema on the Mizbeach, und der eish min hashamayim is oichel dem korban, and the fire from heaven eats the korban, so you can actually see that you take a physical animal and you turn it into holiness by Hashem consuming it. The fire from Hashemayim eats the korban. So in order to bring and present this accomplishment, the Nisim gebracht zweierlei suge korbanos. So therefore, the princess brought two types, two categories of korbanos. One that represents the previous way it was without the chais, without the kedusha, without the mishkan mizbeach, and then how it is with mishkan and mizbeach. There's sug korbanos. The first category of korbanos is nirmas in the kelim. That's hinted in the vessels. And the offering of the meal offering and the incense, bosinzei, that were in the vessels. Eris merames if the korbanos was not makri free. That hints to the korbanos that they brought earlier. Far mizbeach shel mishkan, before the mizbeach in mishkan. Oich damult is given hakrobes hakorbanos. Also, then there was sacrifices that took place even before the Mizbeach and the Mishkan. As Zobenit given thereby, it didn't have at that point, by then, together with that korbanos that took place before, even not at the end when you finish the korbanos, there was no fire that came out from before Hashem that consumed it. Was those beweist, when it comes out from Hashem, that shows a Fashros Shechina, and on the resting of the Shechina. That didn't take place there because there were no turning it into Kiddush over there. Uba Remes. So what is the hint for this? The Kelim Alain, first of all, these are vessels. Vessels are not brought on the Mizbech. And the Korbanos, Mincha Ketores, and the specific offerings of Mincha Ketores, welche gefunden sich in the Kelim, that find themselves in the Kelim, Zet men nit ben Gilui Kain Shinui in Zeh, you don't see no change in them. There's no change in them, in the actual Mincha and the Ketores. Because they're not even offered on the Mizbeach. They're just the Mincha and the Ketores as they are in the Keli. Mashe Enki der Zweiter su Korbanos, but the second category, which is Oila Chatas v'chulu, the Korban Oila and the Chatas, was they alain, they in themselves, the animal itself, in Gansen, either totally, or their Iker Mufchar Shebem, or the main, the choicest of them, which is the chaylev adam of the animal, is brought. Seine korbanos, they are korbanos was mized begilu. You see openly, vize veren niskarev and nishtane, as they are offered. They brought close and they changed chalo zrika by bringing it up onto the mizbeach and sprinkling the blood of Gabba mizbeach. And vateitz and bring on this vateitz with the Hashem vatoichel, and a fire comes out from Hashem and consumes them. That inyan is oich merumos in the chiluk haminim zwischen the zwei sugi korbanos. This idea is also hinted in the different kinds of the two categories of korbanos. The korbanos in the kelim. So what were they made out of? That this one is made out of the living chai, and that is made out of tzemeach, or even daimim. The korbanos in the kelim, which is minchol kotoides, they minchol nit fun min hachai. They're not from the type of the living, or the nizei is the niker, the chayis zeirer, or in them you can't tell their chayis. And the Rebbe says this is negeya because there is a opinion that the moir that was in the Ketores that comes from the chay, so even if it is the chay, but it's still not recognizable their chayis. Mashenk in the karbonos from zweiten Sug, as opposed to the karbonos of the second category, is an Chai. Those are living. Those is meramis that hints as durchum mishkan mizbeach, that through the mishkan mizbeach is nischadish geworden der ilui. It became renewed, accomplished this elevation from Gilu Hashros Hashchina, the revelation of the Shchina resting. As from Demen v'choil machtmen chai v'kedusha, that from inanimate and weakly you make living and kedusha. These are the two categories. So in Oiz Zayin, the Rebbe is going to explain how these two categories, the first one represents Odom and Noach, which were before the accomplishment of the Mizbeach, before the accomplishment Bichlal of Matan Torah, which really accomplished that to turn Gashmis into holiness. And so Odom and Noach are before, and Avram and the others, even though they were before Matan Torah, but still it's the beginning, and they already have, and that's why they are hinted in the second category, in the categories of the Chai of the Korbanos, and Odom and Noach are in the category of the Kalim and the Mincha and the Ketoros. Zayah. Der Oiftu was is do in Mishkan and Mizbech la'achrei Matan Torah, the accomplishment that takes place in the Mishkan Mizbech, which is the Chanukas of Mizbech, as the Rebbe said, we're trying to demonstrate and hint to the accomplishment that happens la'achar Matan Torah, that happens after Matan Torah. What it accomplished is bepashtus ongedeitet geworden, and simply this has been pointed out by saying as Matan Torah is verbunden mit them, that Matan Torah is associated, tied with the fact as Eden will werden Mamleches Kohanim v'Goy Kodesh, that the Yidden will become a nation of priests and a holy nation. That the Yidden have the Kedusha, B'meile, and therefore, and therefore, it will be given to them such a category of mitzvahs, was einen Kuveya Kedusha in the mitzvahs Achgufa, which set a holiness, a sanctity in the mitzvah itself. So the mitzvahs, the mizbeach, the thing is something like just like they became Kaddish, they will have mitzvahs that they can make it Kaddish. And also a 5-year-old who's learning Chumash can understand and sees, as a Zainen geworden heilige Sachen, he can also see that they become holy, which is the Karbonis. Und afal pias beikira tzurdos, overgetan by Matan Torah. Although mainly this was accomplished with Matan Torah, and we're going to say that even Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov already have a connection to that. Then Eden Zaini geworden am Mamleches Kohanim v'Goy Kodesh. That is when the Eden became, by Matan Torah, a nation of priests and a holy nation. Uzainen deriben nistabe geworden in alle Tariag mitzvahs, and therefore they have been commanded for all the 630 mitzvahs. Is aber am ein der Fun. So while there were several mitzvahs that were being done by the forefathers, it already has a certain level of that accomplishment of making Kedusha. Similar, that was already by the first Jew, Avram Avinu. Avram, our father. But their father is an ongizog geworden mitzvah milah. That's why he was instructed the mitzvah of circumcision, which is also changing the physical. It's a covenant in your flesh. That's in the same category as Rashi brings down. That becomes an object of a mitzvah, and that's why he made him swear, because the bris milah was by the bris milah, because that is an object of a mitzvah. Und damit wird musber der seder, and with this we understand the order where Rashi is mefarish the remozim for korbanos anisim. The way Rashi, the order Rashi explains the hint of the Karbonis HaNisim, which is Meyusod of Ramosha Darshan, which is based on the Ramosha the Darshan. The Darshan means expounded, not Pshat, but still Korev L'Pshat is still close to the Pshat, or Meyashem Pshut Mikra, and it settles the simple meaning of the pasuk. was seinen voneinander geteilt in zwei Sugim, have been divided into two categories. The Inyonim von Doimem, the items that are Doimem, inanimate, the Mincha, the Ktoides, the Kaf, the Kairo, Teichter Ois als Remozim, if Odom Arishim Betil Doisom. He translates as hints for the first man and his descendants, the birth, when Odom gave birth, and Noach Betil Doisom, and Noach and his descendants, and Shivim Umes and the 70 nation, all hinted in those psukim. Was in Zay is nit nikar begilu chayus ashros ashchen. In them, you can't tell openly chayus, they're inanimate, which represents you don't see the resting of the divine in those sacrifices. Und in Yonif von Chai, in the second category, you have those aspects of living tight to Yidden. That he translates on the Yidden. Ono even dik von Avram. Ulu bis Moshe v'Aaron, Kahanim Levim v'Yisrael. Kahanim Levim v'Yisrael. Which are all already in the second category. They change from Choil into Kedusha. But this brings up and makes it even more difficult to understand the question that the Rebbe has raised earlier. So then why does he bring in the Kaf Achas Asoro Zov Malayik Toiris? Rashi brings down that means Torah Taryag Mitzvah. So this is stuck in between. So this is already should be by the category of Chai. So why are we bringing it in the middle? This should have been after. This should have been by the Chai, not this idea of Asor Azov. Not so much. Not that it's brought in here, but it's should not be representing seemingly Torah. This should be representing before Matan Torah, because the vessels represent the time before, not Torah itself. Yes, es bleibt aber nicht verstandig, but it remains not understood. Doch sicher kein Ort nicht zu abteichen. According to this, for sure, it doesn't really make sense to translate. It's difficult to translate Kaf Achas Asor Zom Malei Ketoides, which is from the category for Min HaDoimim. But Tzemeach. The Ketoides is Tzemeach and the Kaf Achas is Doimim. Of Torah, which is not Nitum HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Asor Zov is Aseres HaDibros and Taryag Mitzvahs. And Malay Ketoides, they all are hinted for the Aseres HaDibros and the Taryag Mitzvahs. As Rashi types that the Malay Ketoides, the Gematria of Ketoides, when you use the Adbash for the Kuf, comes out to 613. But here the whole idea is we're trying to say that the Doimem represents before Matan Torah, before the Chiddush, and here we're sticking it in, right, that it represents the idea of Torah, Seres HaDibros, Taryag Mitzvahs. Is the beer in that? The explanation. Rashi is the Medayik. Rashi is very clearly, specifically writes as Kaf Achas is Keneged HaTorah Shenitno Miyodei Shel HaKadosh Baruch. That corresponds to the Torah as it was given from Hashem's hand. Not what they didn't do with it, that they change around, but as it was given from Hashem's hand, which doesn't have yet that change. But das meint nicht Torah bechlal. That's not talking about Torah in general, nor the luchas. This is talking about the tablets. was by Zay Davke gefit man an Sinna miyodesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Over there we find that Hashem gave it. Hashem gave to Moshe Rabbeinu the Shnei Luchis Habris. So over there passed Lashon Nesina. Unazoy oich asor zov keneged aseret sadibris. When it says this, it goes to the aseret sadibris malay ketoides gemati teriyag mitzvahs. That the numerical value of teriyag mitzvahs doesn't mean the Torah later on and teriyag mitzvahs later on. It's all as it's part of the luchas given from Hashem. It does not mean the 10 saying in the 600 mitzvahs themselves as independent later on, as it came out in the 10 dibris and the Taryag mitzvahs. Not with their kaf, but it means like this kaf is asorazov malay ketoides, is that same kaf that has been given from the Yodesh LaKadosh Baruch Hu. The luches seinen molei von Taryag. The luches are filled malay ketoides. That means that they are full of the 630 mitzvahs, because all the mitzvahs are part of the luches that were given from Hashem. Taryag al tail from the luches. The 613 as they are a part of the luches, was nit nur Yodesh LaKadosh Baruch Hu, which were given from Hashem's hand. Thus haste. This means the luches enthalten aseres hadibris. These tablets, they contain 10 dibris, asorazov. Was the aseres hadibris, and these 10 saying, Zayin Malaya Ketayres, they're filled Malaya, they're filled. What is hinted and what is connected to the 10 commandments is the Ketayres Gematria Taryag mitzvahs. It's full with 630 mitzvahs. But Rashi Shebefarish given in Parshas Mishpatim, Rashi already explained in the portion of Mishpatim, as kol Taryag mitzvahs b'chlal aseres hadibris, that all the 630 mitzvahs are included in the 10 sayings. Okay, and this is all nitno hinted as it's given by Yad HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'bal das kaf achas goymer is merames if Torah v'ziz nitno meyodosh LaKadosh Baruch Hu. Since this kaf achas represents the Torah as it was given from Hashem's hand, der far geht us noch rein in dem ersten Zug von Yonidem. That's why this goes into the first category, the matters of inanimate. Weil das was Torah mitzvahs tun oif, because this, that the Torah mitzvahs accomplishes, will werden a chefetz shel mitzvah, that it should become an object of a mitzvah, is as when a yid is makabel Torah mitzvahs and tut a mitzvah poil. That is when a yid receives the Torah, not the way it was given, but when you receive it and you actually do the mitzvah, that's when you turn it around. The level of Torah mitzvahs that they are Hashem's, they don't have yet that chiddush of transformation of the Gashmis. Torah mitzvahs is eine mitzad atzmam. The Torah mitzvahs, they are themselves. Shashuav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they are sort of the play of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hashem. Umfafile v'derei git zeh, even as Hashem gives them, nit no meyodosh LaKadosh Baruch Hu, as Rashi says, they were given from the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seinen Zein nit koiveya if speter kegedusha vel. They do not set so that later on there will be a kedusha in the world. So that revelation manifestation does not accomplish that change in the world. Just like by Matan Torah did not change the presence of Hashem, the Shekhinah did not change the Mount Sinai, and it went back to a regular mountain. As the 5-year-old already studied, as the Yeridus Hashchina from Har Sinai, that the descent of the divine on Mount Sinai, hot inem har nit kvegen king gedusha if speter, it did not set in the mountain a sanctity of later on. Was the far is noch them, therefore later on. The Mishoich HaYovel, when the horn blew, when the Shechina left, the Shoylal board, they can go up to the mountain. So know that just because coming from above doesn't change the below. However, at the time it did accomplish it. So while the Shechina is there, nor Ava became, but still, the Baldas B'Shas Matan Torah is given Hamshochas HaKedusha Eifenhad. Since at the time that the Torah was given, there was an extension, there was Hamshocha, Kedusha came down on the mountain. Was the Faris and Ageb Hormoisiumos. That's why if you touch the mountain, you will die because there is Kedusha there. Is there Kav given from Zov? That's why it was gold. Because it does have a certain level, it was Zov. A Taira Keli was an expensive, precious Keli. With the Frir Dike Klei Kesef, it's more precious than the previous silver ones. Nochmer. And furthermore, Baldosi Zahechere Darge in der Hachone zum Inyan HaChai. This is a higher level in the preparation to becoming to the Chai, the next category. As durch Torah Mitzvahs, first you give the Torah, and then through the Torah Mitzvahs, soll man machen von dem im Chai Kanal to make from the Daimem into a living. I said before. Apia Ha'omur Tes. So based on the above, as Torah Mitzvahs Mitzad Atzmo is nit nirmaz in Sugachai. Torah Mitzvahs by themselves, not the change that the way it's nit no HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that itself is still doimim, is not hinted in the Sugachai. That's brought down in the Kafachas HaSorazov Leike Torah. Now we'll understand that there's another part in Torah which is written down in the level of Chai. That werden verstandig Rashi's Pirush. We will understand now Rashi's explanation of Elim, Atudim, Kvosim. These three, all the questions that I've asked before, the Kahanim, Torah Nevim, Ksuvim, the five Chamishis. Those was Rashi teaches that the Gimel Minim, Zainen. Rashi translates that these three kinds correspond, Keneged Kahanim Levim Yisraelim, corresponding to the Kohen Levim Yisraelim, O Keneged Torah Nevim Uksuvim, corresponding to Torah Nevim Uksuvim. Rashi does not mean to add an additional, a second hint. As a second, we said already before. Now there's another one. Since they're both in one commentary, there's no Yeshem, as the Rebbe said before. That'll be 6. So how could there be 3? How could they correspond, include 6? No, that's not what it means. Warum genau, wenn Teure, wer Teure mitzad atzmen nit nirmas in min achai. Because I said earlier, Teure itself is not hinted in the chai. That's in Akaf Achas, Asorazov Malaik Teures. That's in the Teures in the Daimon. Nor the Gimel minim zainem beikir keneged, mainly they are keneged Eden. The drivers Rashin Rechtosh Freier Eden, Kanim Levim Israel, it corresponds to Eden. Nor das is Davke, but it's the Yidden wie Yidden seinen vereinzigt mit the Gimel Chelkei HaTorah. But it's like with Yidden, as they are connected to the 3 parts of Torah. So it's Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim, as they connect to Torah Nevim Ksubim. So that there's only 3 things. Und das kommt behemshech, and this comes as a follow-up to Friedrich Pirush Rashi, to the previous commentary of Rashi, if Luzevach Hashlomim Bokor Shnai. The Rebbe didn't bring down this Rashi earlier when he bring down the Rashis, but over there when it says that Luzevach Hashlomim there is 2 Bokor, so Rashi says Keneged Moshe V'Aaron, the Shlomim, when the Bokor goes Moshe v'Aaron, that's the Shnayim. Shenosnu Sholem ben Yisrael Avim Shebashamayim. They made peace. They gave peace between the Yidden and their Father in heaven. Was there Sholem v'Chibur zwischen Yidden mit den Ebersten? That Sholem, that peace between the Yidden and Hashem, hat Moshe v'Aaron aufgetan b'Matan Torah. That they accomplished by Matan Torah durch und mit Torah mitzvahs, through and with Torah mitzvahs. They made peace, that connection between the Yidden and Avim Shebashamayim. Vibald as euch die Gimel Minim. And since these three types of Eilim Atudim Kvosim, Zayna Kabbalah Shlom, they're also Shlomim, Kabbalas of peace, is the Fun Gufay Choche. So that itself is a proof as they Zainen Keneged Kahanim V'Levim Yisraelim, that they are corresponding to the Kahanim Levim Yisraelim because of the peace that they make. Nit nor mitzad malosam al Yidden bechlal, not just as Yidden in general, Kahanim Levim Yisraelim, the three of Yidden, but it has to be done with the shlomim, with the peace. Nor v'zezayim miyuchad mit Torah keneged Torah Levim uksuvim. But Yidden, Kahanim Levim Yisraelim, in a way that they are united with Torah, which correspond to Tanakh, to Torah Nevi Keneged Tanakh, Torah Nevi Ksuvim. As durch them, a Yid through Torah Verder Sholem Chibur, that brings the peace, the connection between them and their Father in heaven. So that's why it's not just Kahanim Levim Yisraelim, but it's also Torah Nevi Ksuvim, because that's the way that brings the peace, and that's why they're a shlomim, and that's why it's a hemshech to Moshe v'Aaron, and just like there, that's the shlomim through Torah mitzvahs. That's the Torah mitzvahs. Yud, verstandig dem hemshech in Pirush Rashi. So now we also understand the flow, the continuation of Rashi's commentary. Immediately after explaining he continues in the same opening without going to another place. Three times there were and the Eilim Chamisha, Kvosim Neshona Chamisha, and Tudim Chamisha. The five Chamishas correspond to the Chamish Chumshin, Bechulu, and the 5 of the tablets. Vibal that Inyan state in Ein Hemshech. Mitu Keneged Torah Chulu, since it stays in one follow-up, and it follows Keneged Torah as we just learned. That this corresponds to the Torah is move on. It's understood that with these sholish chamishiyos, when we have these 3 5s, maintenance need a remes of naye bazunder in yonim. This is not a new hint, a separate. It's some connected to this 5 to Torah. But ahemshech upirish to connect Torah. This is a follow-up, a flow, and explain to connect Torah. Kidei zu madgish sein, in order to emphasize that do retzich wegen Torah, wie sie wird niskabel bei Yidden, und is vereinzig mit sei. That here we're discussing about Torah as it's being received by the Yidden, and it becomes united with them in order to change. That's the chai. Nit wie in Posek Kafachas goimer, not as in the Posek Kafachas v'seret vi Torah is nit no miyodosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That discusses as Torah the way it was given from the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But here we're talking about the Kabbalah that it was this Kabbalah. The Nisim gebracht the Gimel Minim, they brought the 3 kinds in a mispar von Chomesh, in a mispar of 5, was drikt ois die Schalkus, was is do in Torah und Mitzvahs. That expresses the difference, the separation, the distinction, the division that there is in Torah and mitzvahs. That division is only when you receive it, not the way it's given from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Torah is nit no miyodah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As the Torah is given from Hashem's hand, is ganz Torah ve'ein inyan. Over there, the whole Torah is like one aspect. These are the Eibishter gesagt, Allah said es dibur echad. To the extent Hashem said all 10 dibros with one saying. And der Mitte ist auch verstandig, weil was Rashi ist meitig vom Posuk auf dem Wort kach. Achas, Rashi says, nicht nur mit Kodesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Achas. The Chayr is enorme farish dem Wort kaf. Why would does Rashi have to also say achas? Rashi only seems to say kaf, Yodesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the Mitte is madgish, because with this he emphasizes that the Retzich with Torah is an oifen for achas. We're talking about Torah the way it's one, without division, not separated. Torah wie sie wird gegeben von Obersten. The Torah as it's been given from Hashem is nicht kukendik. Was sie enthält Aseres Hadibris, notwithstanding the fact that it does have 10 sayings, when it's Malayik Torah and it still has, and it has 630 Taryag mitzvahs, is the kaf achas is still ein inyan. Davke when und durch dem was sie in seinem Makabel Torah mitzvahs, but davke through, when and through the Yidden receiving Torah mitzvahs, herzich on these chalkus in Torah, that you can use sense that there is the division in Torah. Adozainen chamisha chumoshim. That these are 5 chumoshim. Jeder chumosh mit einander teuchen und ander in yonim. Every chumosh has a different content and other points, other ideas. Und these chalkus von mitzvahs, and there is a separation of mitzvahs. As in the Aseres Hadibros was called Taryag mitzvahs, Bechlal Aseres Hadibros, saying that in the 10 saying, and Emerson, that means not only 10 saying, that's the entire 600 mitzvahs, which are part of 10. Sanadot Shei Sugim, there are 2 categories. Chomesh Hadibros Aksum Maluach Echad, there's 5 written on 1 tablet. In Yonim Fun Hein, there's aspects of yes, positive. There's 5 that are written on the other one. Yonim Fun Lav, matters of negative. So we have all these divisions. As opposed to the 10 sayings, the Yag mitzvahs, the 630 mitzvahs, is werden gegeben von Ebersten, as they are given by Hashem, werden sie nimras in kaf achas asorezov. Over there, kaf achas 10, one number 10, not 5 and 5. Nicht 2 mal 5. Because from the perspective, then you don't sense that division. 5 and 5, you see 10. But Allah said, all of the 10 sayings are really one entity. It's kaf achas, one kaf. This is Mesichas Motzei Shabbos Parshas Naso Tovshin Lamed Ches.